What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone, and I decided to bring in another bets guy this week. This time, it's our boy JJ, Uncle Dunkle, you know him as, and he also dabbles in the DFS streets. I know Big T likes to say that a lot. You know, he's not just a bets guy. He also plays DFS. He loves the NASCAR streets. He loves the baseball streets, and we'll be talking some MLB DFS. We'll talk some bets as well, and we're going to talk about this early slate, the 6-gamer that we got here. Dunkle, let's bring in. How is it going over there, and how's your day?
I've had better mornings, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It looked like you kind of yacked a bit in your mouth, but needless to say, it's all right. You know, happy to talk a little baseball. Happy to get an invite on this show. I feel like you need to be in some type of shadow council to get on this show, so it feels good to be on it. And yeah, excited to talk some bases.
Yeah, Dunkle was questionable to show up today with a kidney stone. So yeah, we talked about that pre-show. No more kidney stone talk, please. Hopefully all is well with you next week if you have to deal with that. But excited here to talk some baseball with you. Also, we're doing some golf later today. So how about this, Dunkle? Before we dive into the baseball, let's tell the people about the golf show we're doing on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. I know you like to say that you're just the host of the show, but tell the people a little bit about the format, because I know I hope Allie's watching, because Allie asks every week what the format is. So maybe you can kind of give that rundown right now.
Not a chance she's watching. And so, yeah, format would basically just run through a few DFS plays from each of you. Who we think is going to win the tournament, who we have long shots with value, some T20, some matchups. It's primarily a bet show, but it does, we do start the show with some DFS chatter. And then, I call bullshit, when I smell it and sniff it, and keep you guys in line. And it's great content every week between you, Snyder, Uncle T, Allie. It's a great show, and usually some laughs mixed in as well.
It's on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. So go subscribe to that channel. That way you can get notified when we go live tonight at 7 o'clock. Also, subscribe to this channel. That way you can get notified when all the other shows go live today. We got a good show scheduled for you. 3 o'clock will be the Pin Seeker show. That'll be on the premium side. 4:45, you'll get notified when we go live here for the MLB Swing for the Fences show. And then 6 o'clock, we'll have the Final Countdown show. So you do not want to miss out on all of that. But Dunkle, let's dive in. Let's talk some baseball and talk about this early slate that we got today. So I'm pulling it up now. It's a nice little 6-gamer, which, hey, we got 2 opportunities to win some money tonight. If you haven't signed up at Run Pure Sports, go sign up now. You can check out the playbook. You can check out the core plays, all the stuff that we have over here. You don't want to miss out on that when trying to build your MLB winners. And speaking of winners, Justin Verlander is on the mound today. He is going to be a pitcher that we're going to go to today, I'm sure. I'm sure he's going to be in my lineups. It just seems like a guy to easily plug in. You can make an argument, though, that SB2, there's some other good options, right? There's Kyle Wright. Yu Darvish against St. Louis can easily get the job done. Carlos Carrasco against Washington. We know Washington isn't really a team that we're that scared of unless Juan Soto is really at the plate. Cole Irvin against Houston. Not really one that I'm looking to target, but he can get through the damage pretty quick. And then it drops off, right? I know we got Connor Pilkington. I know he was someone that people considered last time against Detroit, and he wasn't incredible. But hey, at 5.9K, if you need a cheap option, he could be in play as well. And it's a Coors slate. So a lot to talk about here on this one, Dunkle. How are you handling the pitchers here? Like, is Verlander an option? Maybe you have a strikeout prop for the people. What's some thoughts here at pitchers?
I think it's interesting, right? I think you can rely on a right-hander versus Oakland in nearly all cases. I'll tell you what, though, like as you look through this slate, it's a 6-gamer, right? So Verlander's going to see what do you think? Mangone 65-70% here ownership. I feel pretty confident it'll be around that number, pending, I guess, and high stakes, maybe it'll be even higher.
Yeah, it could get up to like 75-80 at some points. It is a 6-gamer, so it's not, if it was like 4 or 3, I think they would definitely get there. But yeah, you're right. He's going to be the highest owned for sure.
Yeah, and I think the question you're going to have to ask yourself is, how do you want to mix and match, right? Like Carrasco at 9K is probably fair enough. Bumgarner's got some sneakiness to him with the way Atlanta K's, especially on the left-handed side, or coming from the left-handed side with Bumgarner at a decent price. Can't play Keller. Don't want to touch anybody at Coors. Or Irvin's too risky. I think this slate's really going to be like 3 or 4 pitchers. It's really why Verlander is going to see such high ownership. I'll be honest, man, it probably makes the most sense. People are going to go Carrasco, Verlander, and build from there for the most part. But what's your take there? Because for me, it's really, I think Darvish is too risky at 95. Obviously, he'll see some ownership. Kyle Wright's up there, I guess. But to me, it would be Verlander, Carrasco on my end.
Yeah, I mean, that's my lean too, is like the Verlander, Carrasco. And I think naturally Carrasco will see more ownership than Darvish and Wright, just because that like $500, the $400, like the $900, it could go a long way, right? Like when you're like building out your lineups, because it does drop off. I do think like, man, the issue with Cole Irvin is he's good at being like a pretty efficient pitcher, but like the strikeouts aren't really there, right? I mean, he comes in with the strikeout prop of 3.5, juice on the under rather than the over, and it's plus 109. So it's like, it's fine, but Cole Irvin is definitely not going to be this guy that people are always rostering, and it's against the Astros too, which the Astros are pretty good. Trevor Rogers, he's in Coors. Are you excited about that? Not exactly. Brad Keller against Cleveland. Here's the problem. Brad Keller, he's whatever, but if it was like the Tigers, maybe I'd be interested in Brad Keller, but against the Guardians, a team that doesn't strike out, like that's not exciting. Dakota Hudson against San Diego, like that's another one where it's like, okay, I'm not jumping for that 3.5 K prop. That just doesn't seem exciting. The guy that really sticks out as the cheap one is against Kansas City. It's Pilkington. I think that's the only cheap guy I'm really considering on this slate. Now, I haven't built that many lineups out yet, but like between Carrasco, Darvish, and Wright, they're not that exciting options, like compared to someone like Pilkington. If I need the salary, I might go down to him as an option. I don't think it's like the craziest idea. And maybe that's a way that you just make your lineup construction naturally unique. I assume that most people are going to spend for two pitchers over 9K. Would you agree? I mean, I doubt people are going to be loading up on any pitchers below 9K.
Yeah, I think you're right. Pilkington probably sees some ownership. The problem is like the ball's been flying out of Cleveland in this series. I know it's been warmer there. I don't think it's as warm today, but that total has just been runs all over that series, and it does scare me a bit. The one Kansas City can do damage to left-handers, but yeah, he's going to see some ownership for sure. I'd even argue. I mean, Hudson's always tough to play, but he's got like sneaky upside here with how much the Padres K. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to me to think that Hudson could get you 14, 15 at his price. And it would be a decent pivot off of Pilkington, primarily because no one's going to play Hudson today, and you're getting a $400 price difference there. And it's not crazy to think he outscores him. And if he outscores him, then you've done your job on leveraging Hudson in that spot.
Yeah. And listen, we don't have the weather takes for you. If you need some weather takes, our meteorologist DC, hit him up in the Discord. He he says that he's a weatherman. So ask him about the weather takes. There could be some issues in Kansas City, Cleveland. So that's something to watch for. But I don't think there's anything too major on this early slate. But ask our boy DC. He'll definitely be able to help you out with that. I agree with what you kind of said about Hudson. You can get away with it, but it's risky. It's something to think about, though, when kind of building out your lineups. Ultimately, though, I think you can easily make the double spend up work. I think it's perfectly fine. If you had to pick like between Kyle Wright against Arizona, I know the roof is going to be closed there, so that's at least encouraging for pitching. Yu Darvish against a righty heavy St. Louis lineup, because typically they have a lot of righties in there. I know they got some new young guys coming up that are lefties, but typically it's a righty heavy lineup for Darvish, so that's kind of nice. And then Carrasco against Washington. Like between those three, which one's your favorite? I know you said the most popular combo is going to be Verlander Carrasco. Is that your favorite combo, or is it also the most popular, or is there another one you want to go to?
Yeah, I definitely prefer Carrasco in that mix. I know the Nats have been hitting a bit, but again, it's not like super warm here today. It's warm, but it's not nearly what it was yesterday. And I think Carrasco, he's cheaper than the two of them. I truly believe he's got similar K upside. I know Darvish probably has the most K upside, but to me, based on the lineups they're facing, Darvish also has the most blow up upside because of the Cardinals. Their lineup is better than Arizona and better than the Nationals. And again, you're paying more for both. I personally believe Carrasco's probably going to see a little more ownership than both. So called the two chalky plays with Verlander and Carrasco. But for me, it just makes sense. I don't know if I want to really risk Kyle Wright on the road, against the lineup in Arizona that's been hitting. So yeah, for me, it'll be Carrasco over them too.
All right, Duncan, before we dive into some of the hitters, can you tell me much about creative player Evan Lee? I mean, this is a dude straight from an MLB video game, right? Like, you pull it up and I don't even know anything about this guy. What's your thoughts on Evan Lee here? Or is he this like ace prospect that I know nothing about?
Yeah, join the club. I also don't know much about him. Obviously we could dig into the FanGraphs data, and the dude's got good camps. But we've seen how that works, right? Like AA, AAA, it's a whole different game than Major League Baseball. He's a lefty too, which has to scare you with all these Mets righties. I don't see. I mean, look, obviously, flash in the pan could happen today, but man, it's a tough ask of him to mow down these Mets in this spot. I mean, think about the righties he's going to have to see. Their lineups out, Mangone?
Yeah. We got Nemo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Canha, Davis, Escobar, Luis Guillermo. I think that's how you say it. Guillermo, and Thomas Nido. So I'll just say this. Vegas knows pretty well. Implied total above 5. Like it's not looking good for old Devin Lee. I think it's going to be a bad one. So don't look to be sneaky and play him. If anything, play the Mets. So I do wonder what the Mets ownership will come in at. I know they were kind of chalkier yesterday, and dude, they've been murdering the ball. So like sometimes you just see people just keep like loading up on it, right? Like the Mets, maybe like last week, they were like around like 5% and they weren't as owned. And like, they just might pick up that steam for sure. And on a 6-game slate with Coors, I'm curious to see how the Mets ownership comes in at, because if you play 2 pitchers above 9K, like we've talked about, well, how are you affording these Coors bats, right? Now, some Marlins are going to be cheap enough, and this lineup might come out a little bit later too, so that could cause some issues where these Mets might just come in at like a pretty nice ownership, because Mark Canha on the 5-hole, he's 3K. JD Davis at the 6-hole, 2.6. That's some really nice salary relief. You got the catcher at 2.3K who can fill out with like your last piece of the stack for 2.3 to be able to help jam everyone in. There's just like enough value on the Mets where I do think that's going to bump up their ownership a lot in a 6-game slate. Would you agree, Dunkel?
Yeah, I think, and that's my thing with Carrasco, right? You play Carrasco, you don't really have to play Mets bats. I think you just kind of make the decision for yourself, right? I think that you're right. The Mets are going to see ownership, and the likely spin of where they'll see ownership is going to be the Verlander, Pilkington, right? Or even if people got real crazy, went Verlander, Hudson, because then you could stack, Mets bats in the lineup. I think the good part of playing Carrasco is we know most people don't like to play or combined pitcher with bats, primarily because you need the blowout to really win a tournament that way. But you look at some of these bats and like, look, you could still stick in, Canha and JD Davis. What are they hitting, 5.6? I mean, you get them at basically the nut min or near the nut min for their positions. So if you wanted Mets exposure, 5.6 there, that's a misprice for those 2 hitters. But yeah, you don't get the big bats. But again, if you're playing Carrasco, you're not going to want to load up on Mets bats anyway. So it's one of the other reasons why I like Carrasco.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting slate. If you guys could please hit the like, subscribe to the video. It helps us out a ton. We appreciate it over here at Run Pure Sports. We'll dive in and we're going to go game by game. Dunkel, if you have any betting takes, you do betting videos over there on Run Pure Bets. Why don't you tell people a little bit about like the days that you do them? I know on Sundays you do the free ones with Holden and Joey Work. So tell people like kind of the schedule, what you do over at Run Pure Bets. And then we'll run through it kind of like that. Go through some of the games. We'll talk DFS. And then we'll also talk about some bets that you might like throughout the slate.
Yeah, so a little busier these days than normal with the content. Typically always have a Monday night video for Tuesday, a free solo play, and then a free solo play Thursday night for Friday. Those have won 7 wins in a row, Travis.
Dunkel's talking about some wins. I'm shocked. You're on a little heater.
We're 1 away from tying a career best for me on YouTube with the solo vids, which goes back to I think 2018. So
we're close to going streaking. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're close. We're very close. So those have been good. I'll have another one of them Thursday night. I do the PGA video as we mentioned earlier. Tuesday night with you guys. Saturday a live video with just myself. Sunday a live video with Holden and Joey, and then I do a NASCAR video with Coop and Jay. And just like with you guys, calling their bullshit. I'm not into the group circle jerks on these videos. So but ultimately, yeah, a lot of content all around. And then Joey Work fills the days in between for baseball. So on the Rump Your Best channel, if you're not following, definitely give it a follow or subscribe.
I don't know there. Check that out. Like I said, check out the PGA one. I always try to drop it in our PGA Run Pure Sports Discord chat. I put it in the bets one. I put it in the RPS regular one. So, hey, give that a listen. It's definitely a good time bringing those winners, and we get some laughs, and Dunkel calls us on the BS, and we talk about the layered rough and all the good stuff. So it should be fun, but let's dive back into some MLB. let's talk about the Royals and the Guardians game. And we have Mr. Keller and Pilkington, which I already talked about Pilkington. I don't mind that. I'm going to obviously run some stuff after the show, see if I like any Pilkington setups, but not married to it yet. But Brad Keller is not that good, right, Dunkel? He's definitely someone that, we've targeted over the time. And I think that he's like this Guardians offense. I think it's kind of sneaky today. Jose Ramirez is always in play. I think the Guardians are a team that you can always play in mini stacks, like a Steven Kwan and a Jose Ramirez mini stack of 2-man with a 5-2. Not a bad approach to go with for sure. What's your thoughts here on this game overall?
So here's my issue, and really because I've become more of a tournament player these days. My issue with Cleveland is they're going to be pretty chalky today. They're the first game on the slate. They're cheap bats up front, except for Ramirez. I mean, you can go, if you're looking for how to combo Verlander with a top price pitcher, Cleveland's your path there. You get a team with a high implied team total against a very susceptible righty who doesn't really strike anybody out. I mean, you can go 1, 2, 4, 5 and have a lot of money on the table as long as you don't play Ramirez. So I do think this lineup's going to be a little chalky today, and they're going to see more ownership than they normally would. Now, granted, it being a 6-game slate helps that, but I'll be honest, I actually want to look more towards the other end of things with Merrifield. Anytime you get him versus a lefty at his price at a robust 4,300, I think he's a great play today. The problem is that he's kind of hard to play with other people, right? Do you really want to play Benintendi lefty matchup? He's 3,400, which gives you a nice little free square there, and he's not going to get pinch hit for. But I love Bobby Witt, and he's 4,900. That's crazy. And Salvi's 48, which makes it tough to play these guys. And Melendez is a lefty, which makes him tough to play at that price as well. But I think a naked Witt today is definitely a decent option. And again, I'm not going to be as high in the Cleveland bats because I think everybody's going to be. But I do see the upside there, and the ball's been traveling out of this park, so I can't blame it.
Yep, definitely a good side to get some exposure to. And this Royals lineup is getting a little better. I know Benintendi's not exciting, but like that combo of Witt, Perez, and like Melendez, it is a pretty strong spot. The only problem is, and we have these issues sometimes, is like you got 2 catchers, right? You can't play Perez and Melendez unless you're playing over on FanDuel, where you can put them in the util spot. So that's one of the issues you definitely run into with kind of building out the stacks. That can be a little frustrating for sure sometimes. So yeah, that's one of the issues you got with the Royals there. Let's head on over to the Nationals and the Mets game and talk about that one. Pretty good game. We talked about Evan Lee, definitely someone to target, but I don't know. Mets might be one of the higher owned stacks in the slate. I do think Coors will probably come in a little bit higher though. What's your thoughts though here, Dunkel, on the Mets and the Nationals?
Yeah, I think the Mets are so overpriced for this spot. Because remember, this is a pitcher's ballpark on a day where it's really not that warm. So, you can get, and you're talking playing the Mets off of a ceiling game yesterday. That's, again, one of the main reasons why I like Carrasco versus the Mets bats. I think that if Carrasco pitches well in a spot that he very well could, I'll avoid the Mets bats. And I think if you're going to play 2 Mets bats, I think 5-6 makes sense, right? I think Canna and JD Davis at very cheap, very formidable pricing against a lefty. To me, that would be where I'd go. I can't play any of these guys. I can't play Nimmo lefty on lefty at 48. Marte is always a good option. And so Lindor and Alonso, all good options versus a lefty, but you're paying top dollar for them. And where are you going to go with your pitching if you're doing that? And if you're playing top dollar for these Mets bats, you're practically avoiding the entire Coors Field game. So, it's a tough situation to love the Mets in this spot. And that's, again, one of the main reasons why I like Carrasco, because it pushes me off those bats. And if the bats explode and Carrasco, gets destroyed today, it is what it is. But I do think it's going to make me a little different.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where the line in the sand is going to be drawn between the Mets and Coors today. It's definitely going to be where people are making some big decisions. And I don't know which spot I'm going yet. My lean is to go to the Mets, though. We're going to see. I'm going to run some stuff and just check it out. I think ownership's going to be really important on that too. So we'll have to see. And with Antonio Senzatella on the mound, those Marlins, they seem easy to get throughout your lineups, but it matters what lineups are going to be. That's going to obviously dictate it. If you get some really good value plays that can pop in there that can help make things work, well, that's important. Obviously, the Mets have already had that, but we got to see what the Marlins lineup is going to look like. Because hey, paying for Jazz Chisholm and Jorge Soler, not going to be super easy. You're going to need some value on the Marlins side to be able to do that, which, hey, Avisel Garcia at 3-3, he might be an option. There's tons to talk about with that. But before we go into the Coors game, let's talk about the Padres and let's talk about the Cardinals. And I want to talk about the Padres a little bit because Dakota Hudson, you mentioned he has some upside, Dunkel, but he also is like a guy that can just like go through a game and give up a ton of hits and runs, right? He's definitely not this guy that's an ace or anything. He gives up contact. And hey, we talked to Ali Mack about this. We're trying to educate some people, Dunkel. So let's educate people. It's a Luke Voit revenge game, right? You know, people love the revenge narrative. So that's where he started his career. So what do you think of Luke Voit at 2.6K in the 4-hole? We got Manny Machado in the lineup on a day game at 5.6K. I mean, this is an appealing lineup. I mean, I think that Jake Cronenworth in the 5-hole at 4.1 is a good option. You can go Hai Sung Kim at 3.2. There's enough value on this team that I think the Padres are a really interesting stack on this slate. What's your thoughts on them and the red hot Paul Goldschmidt on the other side?
Yeah, so I'm a little contradicted here because I bet the Cardinals today as a small dog. And my main thing there is Hudson just often has great home road splits, and Darvish is typically the opposite. So Darvish typically doesn't pitch very well away from San Diego, and Hudson typically pitches really well in St. Louis. So for me, I like the spot of Hudson. I could have taken first 5, but for me, I like the Cardinals pen a little more than the Padres pen. Needless to say, I think it's good value getting Hudson here as a small dog. And it's not like the Padres are in this like crazy winning streak either. I mean, sure. I mean, Machado's obviously the real deal, but he's been out for a few games. And Luke Voit, you're right, is super cheap. But man, I don't know what happened to that dude. That dude went from a freak in New York to a practical nobody here. He seems like he couldn't even hit a beach ball these days. But again, you're going to get him. You know, he's fairly cheap, right? I think I know. A few days ago he was 2,600.
Yeah, he's 2.6. He's really cheap still. But you're right. I mean, he only has 3 home runs on the year. When he was in Yankee Stadium, he was just popping out of the park every single time. Now I know the baseballs have changed. Like things are a little different, but it is a cheap price tag at first base. The only fear you can have sometimes is like there is opportunity cost at position sometimes, right? And like first base, like there's some good options there. I mean, obviously Pete Alonso against a lefty, that's pretty good. Jesus Aguilar in Coors. There's definitely some good first basemen where if you take that 0 from Luke Voit, yes, you could spend up in other areas, but it could hurt your overall lineup construction.
Yeah, agreed. I don't blame you at all, but I'll tell you this, Mangone. I think the Padres too are likely to see some decent ownership today. I'll be honest though, Machado, it's not easy to play Machado today and love it again because you have a pretty stacked third base, right? But that's the thing. Like Machado's another guy you can play, naked, right? Because he's just that type of talent. But if you're playing in cash, I mean, yeah, the Padres. To me, Padres and Indians and Guardians are going to be two popular teams because it helps you get to your price point. You can get bats at the top of the lineup. You can get bats versus susceptible pitching, and you can build out with 2 studs in your pitching in your lineups. Again, to me, the Guardians and Padres specifically will be 2 teams I'm underweight on, primarily because I do think that they're going to see decent ownership, and I'd rather just go in different directions on a small slate where ownership is going to be shot up for these types of teams and these types of players. But I agree with you. I think that the Padres are a good stack today. I'm leveraging ownership, and I think that there's some value in fading today if you're playing in tournaments. If you're playing in cash, I think Guardians and Padres, to me, are the 2 best cash liable options for cheaper cost.
All right, let's go on over to the Coors Field game. Guys, if you could please like and subscribe to this video. It helps us out a ton over here at Run Pure Sports. Also, if you haven't signed up yet over here at Run Pure, use that code GetBets. Get you the bet side for free for an entire month. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to get Joey Works winners? Jay, he's the sports keg, does tons of great content for us for NASCAR, MMA, crushes NFL when NFL is back. So we also got JJ giving tons of winners, spread giving out tennis. So tons of good betting options. If you're in a legal state or if you know a guy and you're in another state, feel free to go sign up and use that code GetBets right now. Dunkel, let's talk about this game though. We got the Coors Field game. 10.5 total here between the Marlins and the Rockies. And the Rockies got some expensive price tags. That's the one thing I want to mention because they're typically in Coors a lot, so their prices can stay elevated. And the Marlins, well, they just got there not too long ago, so the prices are still taking their time to go up. We do not have lineups yet, but it is a 10.5 total with Trevor Rogers and Antonio Senzatella on the mound. And Rogers, I mean, We talked about first base being loaded. You got CJ Cron against a lefty that can absolutely smash him. He's going to be someone that you got to consider. I'm sure you'll see Randall Grichuk in there. Some of these righties in the Rockies can really take advantage, I think, of Trevor Rogers. And then Senzatella can get beat up from any side of the plate. So overall, what's your thoughts here on this Rockies and Marlins game?
Yeah, I mean, Cron is a really good option today. My issue with the Rockies bats are what is going on with Trevor Rogers? Like, this pitcher is not the same this year versus last. But here's the interesting thing with Coors, like it hasn't been warm there, and it's not warm again.
And JJ, I'll give you boots on the ground. It's cold today. I went outside today to get my morning coffee in sweatshirt and sweatpants. So it's cold out here.
Yeah, I mean, 50 degrees. I don't know what the wind situation is, but if there's any type of wind, whether it's blowing in, out, I mean, it's going to feel even colder. This is your typical pitcher's weather, but look, we know how the ball carries out of Coors, warm or not. So it is always that fearfulness. But to me, you're going to pay this top dollar for bats in this spot. And, are you in the optimal Coors spot? I mean, maybe, but most likely not. And look, Senzatella, I mean, I've never been a Senzatella guy. I know he had some decent, I guess, pitching a year or two ago, but he's tough to like in many aspects. To me, I personally prefer the Marlins bats, but it's not like they're ripping the seams off the ball either, and you're really paying top dollar for them, which almost makes me think you're likely going to get these guys at lower ownership. If Wendell and Anderson don't play, you're going to get guys that get boosted up this lineup. So I'm interested to see what this lineup looks like. But I'll be honest, I'm going to be lower weight on the Rockies and higher weight on the Marlins. Primarily because I think people are going to be very afraid of these high priced guys. I mean, people are going to play Jazz and Soler, but man, they're like the highest priced guys in the slate for their position. So I think overall, I'm going to be overweight on the Marlins, underweight on the Rockies, and I'll cross my fingers.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense. The Rockies are expensive, and if you do play them, like, good luck getting Verlander and like another top end pitcher. It just might be difficult to pull off. So that's something you can figure out when you're kind of building out your lineups. It's definitely going to be an interesting build to see how it works. Let's move on over. Let's go to the Astros and the A's game. And we had a 7.5 total here. And it's mainly because of Justin Verlander. The Astros, they can definitely do some damage to Cole Irvin. The problem is Cole Irvin is just not a guy that blows up, right? Like doing a full 5-man stack, I just think it might be wrong today. Now, the Astros, they are an offense that can absolutely smash the ball. It is going to be 75 degrees over there in Oakland, wind blowing out. And the one thing that's nice about Oakland is these games during the daytime can at least like blow up a little bit more, right? I don't know why. It's just Oakland during the day, the park just plays a little bigger for some reason. So do you think that the Astros are a team worth taking a shot on at possible low ownership here, JJ?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? Because for the folks that don't play Verlander, they're going to protect themselves with Houston bats. I think you can make yourself really different if you just fade this game entirely. Now, granted, I'm going to try to get myself at ownership on Verlander today. I don't want to be overweight on him, but I don't want to be underweight either. I don't want to win or lose today based on Justin Verlander's performance. With that said, he's in a great spot, right? I mean, you target these Oakland bats with a good right-hander. I get a little afraid with a lefty against this team, but we did see yesterday with Javier struggle a bit, which was kind of odd. Gave up a lot of hits, a lot of hard contact, didn't go deep into the game, didn't have his most recent, K numbers that he's been having. Is that a little foretelling or foreshadowing of what Verlander might see today or deal with today? Tough to say.
One thing to call out, don't go with Javier. I think one reason maybe he didn't go as long, I didn't watch the game, so I don't got your take of just, watching it and seeing what happened. But the game before, I'm blanking on who pitched. I think it was Valdez. He went 9 innings. So I'm not surprised he maybe had a shorter leash. I don't know how many pitches he went, but I think that could have played a little bit of a factor as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this though, Mangone, his pitch count was up there. He was like 4.5 innings in. He was up over 80 pitches.
Oh, was he? Wow. That's pretty, that makes a lot of sense then. Yeah,
he was getting worked, but you bring up a good point that the Houston bullpen is I mean, relatively fresh, not super fresh, but overall, I think the way you attack this game is you play Verlander and don't play a single Houston bat, or you play like 1 to 2 Houston bats max. I think if you stack Houston, I think if you stack Houston, you might want to think about doing it with Verlander and root for a blowout, because that'll make you different. Overall, again, we always see in these tournaments and even especially in cash, right, where people don't stack the bats with the pitcher. I think that'll make it pretty different today. I don't think a lot of people are going to take Verlander and the Houston bats together because then it gives you really limited options what else you can do. But it would make you very different. You just root for one blowout in Houston and, Coors to kind of be a 3-4, a 4-3 game. And some of these earlier games don't pan out, but it will make you different. For me personally, like I said, I'm going to be at weight on Verlander and I'm going to have very little Houston bat exposure.
Yeah. One more thing I want to ask you. I know Houston is a team that, yes, they're very good bats. They're not what I'm trying to target here, but Cole Irvin, he's got a strikeout prop with the juice on the over, right? It's plus 110 and it's at 3.5. And if you made that bet today and Irvin, look at his game logs, he has 4 strikeouts in every single game but one. There's one game he didn't. It was against Tampa Bay. Now, I know obviously it's not like you just don't look at game logs and that's your answer, but what's your thoughts on like a bet on Cole Irvin's strikeout prop? Someone that, is good at betting. What's your thoughts on that? Just because he's been a lot better this year and he's definitely a good ground ball guy and he's able to limit the damage. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, let me see just a few spots of where his number is. So you can get dog money at him to go over 3.5. I think the benefit to him is that Irvin eats innings. Like Irvin gets himself into jams and finds his way out of jams. He doesn't exactly give up like any home runs. At least
he's like one of the best ground ball pitchers, I think, in baseball. I would argue.
Yeah. So, he's been a borderline model citizen of consistency. I kind of wish he was priced in like the 6.5K range because I still don't think anybody would have played him and I would have. At 8.3, I can't. But that goes to, I guess, the pitcher prop you're mentioning because 4Ks isn't exactly unrealistic. In this spot, I just think it's a big ask and you get worried how quickly they'll pull him if he gets into trouble against this Houston lineup. But yeah, I mean, to me, a guy that's been, model citizen at the 4Ks for his last like 5 or 6 games in a row, and he gets some ground balls to get him out of jams. He does get double plays. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs and he's pitching in his park today in not super warm weather either. So yeah, tough pitchers matchup for him in this one going up against Verlander, but these are the types of matchups where young guys, or not young guys necessarily, but guys like him, know they need to throw really well because they know their bats aren't going to give him much life. So maybe takes a little more chances. Maybe, if he gets an ump on his corner, no pun intended, definitely could slide over that number and it's dog money. Me personally, I don't bet a whole lot of pitchers props, so I might not be the best person to ask. I'm more of a game by game guy, but the spot does make sense, especially at dog money.
Yeah, I don't hate it at dog money. It's not something I'm jumping to bet, but I think it's intriguing to look at there. And I don't mind Cole Irvin a little in DFS. I just wish the price was an 8.3. If it was more in that 7K range, 6K, I think I'd be more interested in it. But let's move on over to the Braves and the Diamondbacks. Last game that's on this slate. Got Kyle Wright and Madison Bumgarner here, 8.5 total. What's your thoughts here on this game? The roof is closed as well in Arizona, but this Braves offense, they can get a hold of Madison Bumgarner. I typically like to take the Braves when they're going up against a bad lefty, and I get it. Madison Bumgarner, he can easily turn the clock back and look good, but these righties, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley, Travis d'Arnaud, I mean, they are loaded up and down with righties that can smash. Like even in the 9-hole, one of Big T's favorites, Adam Duvall against a lefty. He definitely would get some exposure to that. That's not in the Big Platoon Hall of Fame, but someone that Big T would definitely roster against a lefty for sure. What's your thoughts here on these righties against Madison Bumgarner?
Now, I'm not seeing it. This lineup's out, man, going for the Braves?
It's not out. I'm just going through what the normal lineup is.
Got it. Okay. So yeah,
sorry.
To me, it's a good spot. Once again for this Braves offense, but we've kind of seen that with them, right? They've become a little too home run prone, which hasn't exactly been fun in that aspect. But it is a good spot for this offense. The roof closed or not. I know this total's getting steamed down a bit because man, it is tough to hit in this park with a closed roof, but and add the humidor into it as well. But I think it goes to it as well. I think if you think Kyle Wright's going to see ownership, it just means that Braves bats are going to see less ownership. And again, I think what makes this slate so interesting is you have so many high priced teams and bats, which make it really difficult to want to build, an efficient lineup, which goes to my point on why I think, or why I'm pretty confident anyway, that Cleveland and San Diego are going to see a lot of ownership today, because when you look at those two lineups in particular, you can get cheap bats at near the top of the lineup for nearly, at nearly no pain to you. So I think you're going to see a lot of people take Cleveland bats, take Padres bats, and then mix and match, whether it's with Atlanta, whether it's with the Coors Field, whether it's the Mets. And in this case, yeah, Atlanta makes sense again, but you can't like super stack this team if you're playing two big arms, right? So if you're going to super stack this team, and again, this is just like the Mets conversation. If you stack the Braves, you really can't do anything in Coors. So it just makes things very difficult, which is why I'm going to be underweight on the Braves here, and I'm likely going to be slightly overweight on the Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks can score runs today, and I look at this lineup, and yeah, there's nothing to like love about it. Not that you ever love anything about the Diamondbacks lineup, but Kyle Wright is susceptible, especially if the curveball is not working to his favor. And again, you get these Diamondbacks bats. I actually like when a team like the Diamondbacks is overpriced like this because absolutely nobody plays them. So yeah, slightly overweight on the D-backs, slightly underweight on the Braves. But I think with how many high priced options there are with all these teams today, I think it makes for an interesting slate.
Yeah, and we just got that Diamondbacks lineup. Yeah, Varshaw, Rojas, Marte, Walker, Peralta, Pavin Smith, Alec Thomas, Jake Hager, and then Jose Herrera. So a lot of cheap options if you want to throughout that lineup. Anything stick out to you there, Dunkel?
Yeah, I think you can go like same thing with the Mets. They can go 5-6, Peralta, Pavin Smith. The problem with this D-backs lineup is, and this is why I think a lot of people are going to avoid them. I mean, who the hell's going to want to pay, for these top guys? You're going to want to pay $4,600 for Marte and $4,300 for Rojas, $4,200 for Walker versus a right-handed pitcher. I don't think anybody's going to play Arizona today, like at all, which maybe might drive Kyle Wright's ownership up. But needless to say, I'm going to be slightly overweight in the D-backs for leverage.
Yeah, I mean, if Kyle Wright is going to come in higher on, I think he is still going to gain ownership in general. Definitely a good leverage spot. Don't mind that at all. Guys, if you could please like and subscribe to this video. It helps us out a ton over here at Run Pure Sports. We're almost at 9K subscribers, so we would appreciate if we can get that home. Also, get the likes up. We'll give out a play of the day here at the end. But we're gonna go through these. I don't know how many games we got left on it's not on the early slate, but we'll go through it from a betting perspective, kind of like you do. We'll breeze through it a bit. It shouldn't be too hard to talk about it. Dunkel, give your favorite side total. I know from the early slate you like the Cardinals. I believe you said at plus money, correct?
Yep.
All right, so Cardinals at plus money is one of your favorite bets so far. If I had to pick one, I like that Cole Irvin one a little bit. I think it's a sneaky one for sure. So that's so far some bet ones, but we'll go through some of these other games and talk about it. That kind of wraps up that. At the end of the show, once we get enough likes, we'll give out a play of the day, our favorite hitter on the early slate, and we'll wait for some lineups kind of to come out as well. But Dunkel, let's talk about this Giants and Phillies game because Aaron Nola is definitely someone that I think can take advantage of this Giants lineup. We got the Phillies. Bats, though, have been absolutely atrocious, and Aaron Nola never gets run support, it seems like. So what do you think here of the Giants at dog money with Rodon on the mound?
It's tough to say. I hate to be biased, but I've lost 3 straight bets back in Carlos Rodon. And
I mean, you're getting Rodon plus money against like this Phillies team that literally is just not hitting the ball well right now.
And it makes life very, very difficult. The good thing for the Phillies is that Rodon is a lefty, and the Phillies often get a little boost when they get to see a left-hander. With that said, yeah, they've been tough to watch. Nola's in the middle of his best pitching grouping all season, undoubted. He's pitching really well, so to me, this is like a two-sided argument, right? Like you can argue you're getting good value on Rodon as a slight dog, but you could also argue that Nola is not getting priced high enough with how good he's been. I'll tell you this though, this Phillies bullpen is so bad. Me losing the first 5 yesterday with Philly, because Girardi makes an interesting bullpen swap to bring in Nelson, who's been abysmal. They just don't have any reliable arms. So like part of it's Girardi's fault, but part of it's like the bullpen they've given him. Like he has no options. And I will say this, the leash on Nola today is going to be likely very long because this bullpen is terrible. And, even if Nola gets himself into trouble, they're likely Girardi doesn't have a choice. Like just leave him out there. But as far as the bats go, yeah, I think it's an interesting spot regardless. Again, not super warm today. 2 good arms. You could target a first 5 under here, but like what's been happening with Rodon? Is something going on? Because he just has not looked himself. Granted, he was like super elite earlier in the year and he's kind of faded a bit. To me, I got arrows going in different directions on this game, so I'll likely stay away. At worst, bet the first 5 under. 4.5 number, but other than that, it's really tough to love. You have so many different things between the Phillies and not really hitting, but Phillies drawing a vulnerable lefty these days. Nola, maybe some value on him with how good he's looked. But, Rodon, in most cases, if both pitchers throw an elite game, Rodon should be favored in this spot because Rodon's a better pitcher when he's at his peak than Nola, who's at his peak. But yeah, again, too many arrows going different directions. I'll stay away.
All right. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. The next game is the Marlins and the Rockies game, but we're not going to talk about that just because it's a doubleheader. You don't have enough accurate lines and everything. So we're going to skip that game. Let's talk about Robbie Ray and the Seattle Mariners against the Baltimore Orioles. And this game is in Baltimore, which that could be a nice little benefit for Robbie Ray. Now the Orioles have been smashing the ball a bit. You got guys like Mountcastle, Mancini, they could definitely take advantage of Robbie Ray, but it's in Baltimore, which yes, you'd rather be in Seattle. I think Robbie Ray, it's a great park for him to pitch in, but Baltimore, it's going to be 9 degrees. So I don't know how this park is going to play with it being a little bit hotter. So curious to get your takes on it because the Robbie Ray experience, it's always a dicey one. And you got Kyle Bradish on the other side, and Ray's only a minus 145 favorite, which that seems like it should be a little deeper. It seems like minus 160, maybe even like minus 170 should make a lot of sense. What's your thoughts here though on the Mariners and the Orioles though?
So being a closeted Mariners fan, I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Robbie Ray this season. Granted, I believe his walk numbers are down, but his hard contact rate is way up.
Well, the good news, Dunkel, is the park though, right? This park is, if you give up hard contact, at least you can kind of get by because they move back the fences, right?
Yeah. And that's fair enough for sure, especially since it's playing to righties, the bigger ballpark, right? The pull righties. I think overall though, you get a susceptible lefty against this O's team. Look, on a day where the O's did nothing in a game where they likely should have done something, I think there's some value in targeting the Orioles team total over. I'd like to see their lineup first before I fire on that. Because they do interesting things with their lineup despite not having a lot of talent. So that's the difference with the Orioles, right? They're not built like other teams. Other teams have decent depth. When the Orioles sit one or two guys, the drop off from a guy like Mullins to somebody else, and they sit Mullins sometimes versus left-handers, is just silly. So I want to look for their lineup, but if the lineup is close enough to opening day, I'm likely going to fire on O's team total over 3.5. I think between Robbie Ray and the bullpen, I think the O's are going to get a tremendous amount of foot traffic here. And I know they're coming off a poultry game, but they've been hitting really well. I'll call yesterday's game an anomaly. And I think they fill up the bases today. And granted, will that result in runs? I don't know. But when you're betting overs, especially team total overs, you're really aiming for scoring opportunities. And I think we'll get that today from the Orioles.
Well, there definitely should be some opportunities for the Orioles. They'll be interesting on the main slate. I'm sure if you want to stack them up, you can. If they won you some money, I don't blame you going back to them. I do want to mention the code GetBets. If you haven't signed up over at Run Pure Sports and you want to get the bet side, use that code GetBets. Get you the first month for free when signing up. Also want to talk about our members never win segment. People joke that the members don't win it over here at Run Pure Sports, but they do. We got June Yoya won 4.7K in MLB. Kiwa won 10K in MLB. Punisher won 20K. Taylor Made 26K. And then Simo with a nice 100K in the MLB straights. We also have, because today's Wednesday, I believe tomorrow is the day where the NBA Finals will be back. And we will have a nice $1 million up top. Big T, JSU, they will do the showdown show for the people as well. So you do not want to miss out on that big money that's coming. So go sign up at Run Pure Sports and use that code GetBets. Dunkel, let's talk about the next game that we got up here. And we got the Angels and the Yankees, and we got Nestor Cortez on the mound. So it does seem like a spot where, man, minus 180 on Nestor Cortez. If I told you that early in the year, I'd tell you were crazy. But the way he's pitching, he's been absolutely unbelievable. What's your thoughts here on this Yankees and Angels game?
Yeah, so yesterday I loved the over. I bet it first 5 over. I thought Gleyber Torres was going to slide into a loser there when he somehow slid past third base and got tagged out when the Yankees were gaining momentum early. But Matt Carpenter bailed him out with a 2-run homer shortly after. This spot's a little different, though. I'm not a big Detmers guy, but I do like him a little more than most. I think this is a big ask of him, though, a lefty versus this squad. And look, Cortez is great, too. But another lefty, right? It could be right. Cortez is left-handed, right?
Yes, he's lefty.
So, you're throwing a lefty at 2 very righty heavy lineups. So it pushes me off liking the under in this spot. But I'll tell you this, when Cortez is when he's getting roughed up, his control's a little all over the place and he does fill the bases up. The problem is that with it, again, it not being super warm in New York today, I have some concerns over the ball carrying. And I think the total makes sense here. I kind of wish it was 8.5. If it was, I would have already fired. But the Reed Detmers angle scares me because he could easily get blown up. And Torres, there was a tremendous amount of hard contact yesterday in that game against Syndergaard. The game did slow down a bit afterwards, but needless to say, I think this line's fair at 8. And Cortez deserves this 180 line. He deserves this 180 line primarily because Reed Detmers has been tough to watch. And overall, that's why I think this line is relatively fair. So I'm going to stay away from this game.
Yeah, one thing to talk about, Dunkel, if you look at these 1 through 3s for both teams, you got Taylor Ward, Ohtani, and Mike Trout. I mean, that's just as strong as it can get, right? Like, I mean, that lineup's insane. Then you got the Yankees, DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, and then Anthony Rizzo. Strong 1 through 3. The 4 through 9 right now is a disaster. I mean, let me just tell you, after Mike Trout, you got Matt Duffy, Luis Renfigo, Max Stassi, Jared Walsh, Juan Lagares, and Andrew Velasquez. I mean, it's a rough bottom of the lineup for both these teams. Yankees, they got Torres, Andujar, Hicks, Kiner, Felipe. I mean, we had Matt Carpenter in the lineup recently hitting home runs. I don't know if he'll be in the lineup there today. Marwin Gonzalez. I mean, it's an ugly bottom of the order for these guys. So if you are playing DFS, I don't know. I think the mini stack is a little better than the full 5 man, unless maybe you find some guys in the mini stack that make it interesting. But if you are going to full on stack, do not ignore the 1, 2, and 3. Make sure to get them in there. I'll at least say that. Let's move on to the next game, though. Let's talk about the White Sox and the Blue Jays. And I typically like playing some White Sox against lefties, and I'm not a big fan of Ryu. I think Ryu is a guy that's going to be blowing up here soon. I think this White Sox lineup could be really interesting today. Curious to get your thoughts here on what you would do betting-wise, though, JJ. Do you have any interest in Michael Kopech and the White Sox, or maybe you have interest in Ryu and the Blue Jays?
I really like that the Blue Jays are starting to hit again. They went through quite a bit of a drought for a lengthy time period. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was in like a woof type of slump. I think am I incorrect? Was he like in an 0 for 21 skid, something like that?
I don't know if it was that bad, but it definitely hasn't been good. I mean, the Blue Jays, they're kind of similar to some of the other teams I just talked about. Like their 1 through 4 is great, but then it drops off. I mean, when you got Ramil Tapia in there and like Kevin Biggio, I mean, the bottom of the order is definitely rough right now.
Yeah, I think the spot you could look to in this game is the over at 8.5, or even the first 5 over. The reason I would prefer the first 5 versus the full game is because both these teams have really good back end bullpens. I mean, granted, it's funny, right? Because people call, oh, well, this team has a good bullpen, but like when they say a team has a good bullpen, they're really taking the full numbers of the pen, right? When in reality, when you're betting a game and you're really focusing on their setup, their hold, and their closer as their bullpen. The Blue Jays have a really good 3-man tandem there, and so do the White Sox. But collectively, when they bring in these long relief guys, it kind of bolsters their ERA in a negative way. I wouldn't want to, if this was like a close game late, I wouldn't want to have the best bullpen arms come out and need runs. So if I was going to bet this game, it would be the first 5 over at 4.5. Slight lean there. I want to see lineups, but if we get a heavy righty lineup from the Sox, and we get a relatively starting day lineup from the Jays, I think we'll Kopech the flamethrower. I think it might play to some of these Blue Jays hitters' strengths. I mean, Bichette loves the fastball. Guerrero loves the fastball. I think the harder they throw it, the more could just go further. Granted, you're not getting a super warm game in Toronto, and that park hasn't played big at all this year, which has been an interesting element, all things considered, especially from last year in the other park. But yeah, call it a lean at over first 5, 4.5. Don't love it, but if I get decent lineups, I will fire.
All right, let's move on over to the next game. If we could, though, guys, please like and subscribe to this video. It helps us out a ton. We appreciate it. Also, if you want to check out more of JJ's content, you head on over to Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. Subscribe to that channel so you can check out all the free shows and videos that are done. And Dunkel's on a nice little streak. He's won 7 in a row, going for 8. So what day will that video be out, though? Because people will want to be clamoring to see if you can start going streaking and break your record.
Yeah, the video will be out Thursday night for Friday.
All right, Thursday for Friday. So be sure to check that out over on the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. Let's go on over to the next game, the Reds and the Red Sox. And man, the Red Sox, they've gone a little colder, I think, the past couple of days. I can't remember what they did last night, but they did have a rough one against the Orioles recently, but they were smashing the ball all last week. What are your thoughts here on the Red Sox going up against the Cincinnati Reds team where, talking about bad bullpens, Dunkel, I mean, woof. I mean, this is a bad one. The Reds are definitely a bullpen that we can target, and the Red Sox, this is definitely a team that I think we want to get some exposure to, but it is going to be cold today. 56 degrees. It looks like it's going to be. You said it's a little nastier on the East Coast. It's nasty over here in the Midwest as well. So, Dunkel, what's your thoughts here on this Red Sox team against this bad Reds bullpen?
Yeah. So the Red Sox have kind of gone through a little mini slump here, right? 2 games in a row, I think 1 run total.
Yeah, I mean, they were smashing all last week. So we kind of give them a little bit of a pass, but it could be the start of just like a really bad streak for sure.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like we've said, right? I mean, this Red Sox team was smacking the seams off the ball what felt like for an entire month, and they're still 3 games under 500. So that'll likely regress itself, and it might already be starting with these 2, no-show games from their offense. The biggest problem with the Red Sox is they're just so top heavy, right? Like they need production from 1 through 5 or 1 through 4 even at times. And if they're not getting that, there's just such a black hole at the bottom, middle of the bottom of that lineup. Hunter Green has upside. This might be a spot for him where he can show off the upside if the Red Sox are going to become slumping or start slumping. But look, the Reds, continue to at least play a little better. I mean, I don't know if people are necessarily forgetting, but this team started 2-23 to start the year, or 3-23 to start the year. So, they've been playing decent baseball as of late. Their pitching is starting to, progress to the mean, and their hitters are starting to progress to the mean. With that said, it's a tough spot overall. And, if you keep rooting for the Red Sox not to hit in these spots, I think you're going to find yourself drowning money. But needless to say, it's a tough spot for me to love anything, because normally an 8.5 total in Fenway with these 2 arms, these 2 lineups would be an auto play. But again, it's not going to be warm, and the Red Sox aren't hitting. So, if that streak continues, it'll be tough to find runs. So I'm going to stay away from this one.
I mean, the one thing that still got me a little roped in, Dunkles, this bullpen is really, really bad. I will say, it's that Reds bullpen's not good. So we'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do yet DFS wise. That'll be a later decision, but curious to hear what the people say on the Swing for the Fences show at 4:45. So be sure to check that out. I want to get their takes on it for sure before making my final decisions. Let's go on to the next game. We got the Twins and the Tigers. We got Bailey Ober against the Tigers team that can strike out a ton against righties. And then we got Tariq Skubal, where, man, Skubal he's definitely a decent pitcher, but man, the Twins can smack up a lefty pretty good, and they have a good lineup for it. So what's your overall thoughts on this game? 7.5 total too. So Vegas is giving some respect to these pitchers for sure here. What's your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I think it really plays more to the fact of how this park in Detroit the ball does not carry well at all when it's cold. And it's not exactly cold, but it's certainly not warm. And Skubal's been good. Skubal's hard not to like. But so is Bailey Ober. Bailey Ober has been a pleasant surprise as well. I'll be honest though, I don't like the idea of a Tigers pitcher, or a Tigers lefty for that matter, at this Twins lineup. The Twins, where you can really rely on them as a whole, is against left-handed pitching, and Skubal's good. But Ober's been really good too. So needless to say, I'm going to pass on this game. As far as the total goes, I think it makes sense. I think, like I said, at 7.5, I was kind of wishing this would be 8. I would have definitely fired on under if it was 8, because I could have got a 4.5 first 5, which I definitely would have fired on. But if this does climb to 8 before game time, which means I could get a 4.5 first 5 at -150, -120, that'll definitely be a fire spot for me, because I think that we know the ball doesn't really carry that well in this weather. I think you don't have to ask much of Bailey Ober in this spot to throw, have a quality start. And Skubal, if he can just avoid the home run ball today against some of these power righties, like Buxton and Correa and Sanchez, I think they both pitchers throw pretty well here. So the problem is I need this total to get to 8 so I can get that first 5 at 4.5.
All right, let's go on over to the next game. It's not a win game blowing out anymore, at least for the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. Looks like the wind's going to be down to 5 miles an hour. It's a little colder for sure. We got Jason Alexander going up against Kyle Hendricks. So, Dunkel, what's your thoughts here on this game? I think this is going to be one DFS-wise. I kind of just stay away from it. I'm not that excited about. Betting-wise, what are you going to do here with this game?
So, Kyle Hendricks at home is often reliable, right? And there's been a ton of runs in this series. I don't know. Today's likely going to play different though, right? Because you don't have the wind in your favor. It is a little chillier. And I hate to sound like a broken record with this cold weather, but we know for a fact the sport this time of year, weather matters. And when you're betting these games, you need to be cognizant of it. I'll be honest, I think Hendricks is in a good spot. I think you can target first 5 here behind Hendricks, especially if maybe we get a little more Milwaukee money. Because again, Hendricks at home, his home run splits have been pretty egregious over the years. And Jason Alexander, relatively raw pitcher in general. Granted, a huge lineup at edge for the Brewers, especially with how they've been hitting in this park. But yeah, call it a slight lead in favor of Hendricks first 5, which you could probably get at about -115, -110, betting your book. I'm going to wait for lineups again because there's just been so much traction for runs in this series that I'm worried that you might get, a bat or two sitting here for either squad. But assuming I get regular lineups for both squads or even an advantage edge for the Cubs, definitely going to fire on Hendricks first 5.
All right. Looks like that's like your late night best bet, right? Would you say that's like your favorite one so far?
Favorite one thus far is probably going to be the next game. But yeah, I do like this spot with Hendricks.
All right, we'll do an overview at the end to kind of get your final betting card in a way. Let's talk about it then. So John Gray and Jeffrey Spings, a 7.5 total here. I'm curious to see what your favorite's going to be. Maybe it's John Gray. I know that DC has been a big John Gray guy, but I don't know. What's your thoughts here on this game? I have no good read on what's going to be your favorite thing here. So just tell me, Dunkel.
I really like the Rangers first 5 here. I don't want to touch the bullpen, even though, believe it or not, Mangone, Rangers have like a really good bullpen this year out of nowhere. They weren't expected to have one. They were expected to be in like the bottom 5% or bottom 2 or 3 teams in terms of bullpen. But guys like Matt Moore and other guys in general all their ERAs are in like the 2s. These guys have been tremendous. And John Gray, if you remember, was a pretty chalky play in DFS a few days ago and did not pan out because of a misprice from DraftKings. Well, that's not why he didn't pan out, but he was overly owned because of a misprice by DraftKings. It didn't pan out. I think in this spot, though, against a Rays team that is struggling to find runs right now, and they're going up against a Texas team that is the exact opposite. This Texas team is between Seager, Garver, Simeon, even John Heim, Calhoun. It's like all these guys that are like, I mean, at the top, they're obviously real big bats, but like in the middle, the bottom, these guys are all hitting. Garcia even bombed yesterday as well. So I just think I'm getting a pitcher's matchup, which I'm not fully convinced I'm getting the worst pitcher first 5. I'm definitely getting the hotter team with their sticks first for the first 5. And I'm even getting them at home. So yeah, best bet for tonight is going to be Rangers first 5. You could probably get that +105 FanDuel, but I guess pen's your book. I have a little issue playing them full game because this Rays team has lost a few now where their bullpen's as fresh as it can get. And late in the game, I would prefer the Rays pen if this game's tied late. But first 5, I really like the Rangers spot. They've been getting to pitchers early, and they've been scoring runs. I was riding their team total for a bit as well for a few games. They're just playing well, and this is the time to jump on a team like the Rangers.
All right. Looks like Rangers first 5 is going to be one of your best bets from the later games. And then, you talked about the Cardinals earlier. So those are some of them. Guys, you can please like and subscribe to this video. It helps us out a ton over here at Rum Beer Sports. I also want to run through the rest of the schedule for the day for you guys. So 3 p.m., we got the Pin Seeker show with Big T, Tambo, Uncle T. They'll be breaking all that down for you guys. After that, we got the 4:45. We got the MLB Swing for the Fences show. That'll be free here on the YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when we go live. And then after that, we got the 6 p.m. Final countdown with JSU, Holden, breaking that all down. DC, I'm sure will be on there, so you do not want to miss out on that show. It leads you up to lock, gives you our coordinator's final thoughts and takes, core plays, all that stuff. So go check that out later today on the premium side. Dunkel, last game on the slate. People always love to add this into their last leg of their parlay, the old Dodgers, right? The -250 they can't lose until it does. Jose Quintana going against Mitch White. What is your thoughts here on the Dodgers and the Pirates?
The Dodgers have been a kind of a letdown in this series, right? Are they 0-2 or 1-1? I mean, either way, they should have lost both games.
They're killing parlays for people. People are not happy with their last leg losing at 1 a.m. over there on the East Coast.
I think though, this is a tough ask for Quintana. And I will say this, when you back a team like the Dodgers, like I always say this, I don't bet any Dodgers games really because they're always overtaxed. And
smart man, that's definitely not a great game to target.
And you're always going to pay like 30, 40 cents more than you should on the Dodgers. And even when you fade them, like it's almost like kind of like fading like studs in tennis or because like, or fading like aces, right? In baseball in general, because like, you just know, like there's no free outs in this Dodgers lineup. They usually have a good arm going. They have an above average bullpen. They have good platoon guys that they can pinch hit for late. So yeah, the line 275, do I want any piece of the Dodgers? No, I think you can potentially target their team total over tonight. because Quintana's a super susceptible lefty that's not going to get strikeouts. I do get worried about, because these Dodgers bats do go a bit flailing at times, but a guy that's not going to strike anybody out, that's going to pitch to contact, I think is a recipe for trouble. With that said, though, I mean, why would you want to pay $275 to a Dodgers team that's not looked like themselves in this series? So yeah, it's an easy pass for me, but I'm a little biased because I never bet Dodgers games. So, but needless to say, team total over for Dodgers, I don't think is a crazy look tonight specifically.
Yeah, definitely gonna be tough. DFS wise, I'm sure people will be on the Dodgers. They always are. They're in a pretty good spot, so don't hate them there. But that's the full-on breakdown. That's what we got for you guys. Let's give out our favorite bat from the early slate, Dunkel. So I got mine ready to go, so I can go before you. I'm probably gonna go to the bets today. I think they're gonna be a stack that I get exposure to. So give me Eduardo Escobar at 3.6K towards the bottom of the lineup. I think it'll be a good way to be unique. Also, people, they might get a little uncomfortable loading up on that outfield, right? They put Mark Canha in there at 3K. They put in Starling Marte, and you know what they say? They say, I can't put JD Davis in the outfield. I want to get exposure to another outfielder. So they throw him at third base. So I think Escobar is a unique way to build out your Mets stacks. And also, you talked about it earlier, Dunkel, Jose Ramirez. He's someone that's going to be owned at 6.1K. Even though he's expensive, people will still go to him. People will go to Manny Machado, where I think that Escobar is going to be someone that you maybe get at some lower ownership within your Mets stack. So give me Eduardo Escobar as my play of the day. Dunkel, who's your guy? Who's someone that you're going to get exposure to here on this early slate?
My man, naked Whit Merrifield on the Royals. I think that he's a guy that hasn't hit all year, a guy that's got an extra base hit in 3 or 4, a guy that might be finally starting to see the ball well. And you know the type of upside you have with him, right? You have the stolen base upside. You have the occasional power upside as well. I don't think he's going to see much ownership on a 6-game slate today. I agree that he's going to probably see his, sub 15 to 20% ownership. But when you look up and down these lineups and second base in particular, other guys are going to see more ownership. You got Altuve versus lefty. You got Jazz and Coors. You got Albies, who often crushes lefties versus Bumgarner. And then you can even go down. You got Cronenworth at 4,100 in what's likely going to be a popular stack in San Diego. You even got, Owen Miller at 3,200 for people that want to go cheaper at second base, and even go down. You can get a min price Garcia at 2K. Guillermo, I don't think Guillermo's going to see much ownership actually yet from the 8 spot, but needless to say, you have a lot of options today, and even Brendan Rodgers as well, who's going to be a cheaper bat who likely bumps up the lineup today as well. I think you get 15 to 20% Whit ownership today on a 6-game slate, where when he's versus a lefty, he should be seeing more than that. So it's not, it's not like a stud play that maybe people are looking for, but for his price today, love the spot.
All right. We just got the Rockies lineup out. Blackmon, Daza, Crone, McMahon, Connor Joe, Brendan Rodgers, Sam Hilliard, Jose Iglesias and Elias Diaz. So that is the lineup. Rockies lineup just came out now. So be sure to check out all the stuff we got over here at Rumpier Sports. The playbook is live for the early slate. The core plays will be up soon, but that's going to wrap it up for us. If you want to check out the rest of our content, be sure to subscribe to the Rumpier Bets YouTube channel, subscribe to this channel. That way you can check out Dunkel's stuff, check out my stuff, and be sure to check us out at 7:00. If you're into golf, we'll be breaking that down with Allie Mack. We'll be with Mitch Snyder. We'll be with Uncle T, talking some DFS winners and some bets winners. So be sure to check that out. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining for me, Mangone, and Uncle Dunkel, JJ. We will see you guys later.